political environment can impact your research. Returning fashion trends are made by society but fabricated by brands. To study them, we need to understand how the political side of brands work. Political environment has a huge impact on the regulation of a business, as well the purchasing power of consumers. Companies pay attention to the political environment to see how government actions may influence on them. For example, impacting the company's international operating activities. These are key points for a brand to start circulating their clothes locally and internationally. Knowing this, we can deduce that most international brands depend on the political environment to be able to export their clothes. This impacts the way trendy fashion items work differently depending on your geographic location. When studying fashion trends, we need to have in mind that not every country has the same access to some clothing brands, making it hard for some people to obtain certain brands and pieces. How does the economical environment can impact your research? Consumers can buy trendy, affordable, and attractive garments every week in high street stores thanks to fast fashion. Over the last 2 decades, these business models has grown at a tremendous pace. It responds to the growing desire for fashionable and cheap clothing among consumers. Fast fashion has had a significant financial impact. It is responsible for the garment industry's recent growth and anticipated growth in the next 3 years. Consumers want low-cost clothing as a result of fast fashion's impulsive shopping culture. The demand for designer goods and stylish items that are less expensive is increasing. Unfortunately, most consumers are unaware of how their purchases affect the apparel industry, the economy, and the environment. Consumers are willing to spend more money a year to buy more clothes. The clothes category is the highest growth in the sportswear. Sales of sportswear have been growing at an 8% yearly rate, reported by McKinsey & Company in 2017.
How the social dimension can impact your research. The main 3 social dimensions of fashion businesses are customer service, promotion, and co-creation. All of these affect directly on the way clothing items become trendy. Nowadays, with all the technology we count with, we are able to expose a brand on social media for good or bad reasons. Also, they reach a visualization for millions of users. That is why brands need to take social media and make them their ally instead of their enemy. There are many ways a company can do this. The first one is using easy access social media customer service like Twitter or Instagram direct messages, send global influencers some clothes for them to try and review, have a good and interesting public relations packages, also inviting customers to leave online reviews, and more. The main problem is that even if the brand is international and has different locations all over the world, the way it works and their customer service is not going to be the same because it may depend on the country. This may affect us when we're doing international research because some participants may have satisfying opinions on a brand, but others may not. The environmental impact on our research. After the oil industry, the fashion industry is the world's second largest polluter in the world. As the sector expands, the environmental damage escalates quickly as well. Toxic chemicals such as lead, mercury, arsenic, among others, can be found in wastewaters. These are exceedingly damaging to aquatic life as well as the health of millions of humans that live along the river's banks. The contamination also makes its way to the sea because it is finally spread all over the world. Chemicals are a major component of our clothing. Each of our outfits uses them throughout fiber production, dyeing, bleaching, and wet processing. How the legal dimension can impact our research. Legal dimensions affect brands directly, but they vary depending on the state, country, region, or even the continent. Fashion law is a field of law that study the issues that impact fashion industry. The main areas that they care about are intellectual property, finance, employment, and labor law. The return of fashion trends goes beyond what the customer thinks it is. Brands are always behind them, and most of the times, they bring back items that fit with all or at least most of these categories. Mainly because times have changed. changed and society has progressed on treating issues like racism and homophobia. Also, all of this can be reflected throughout fashion.
Interviews and focus groups are common techniques for collecting qualitative data about people's experience, opinions, attitudes, and motivation. Interviewing involves asking individuals or small groups questions about a topic. Focus groups are a specific form of group interview where interactions between participants is encouraged. The person conducting a focus group plays the role of a facilitator, encouraging the discussion rather than asking questions like an interviewer. Focus groups allow us to achieve the diversity to ensure multiple perspectives. Online focus groups are usually more affordable than in-depth interviews. This research method is also the easiest to organize. The best way to understand the role that group dynamics play in purchasing decisions. It is easy to conduct focus groups and generate results quickly. Lower average speaking time for each of the group members is one of the bad things about it, and focus groups are a little bit difficult to organize. The participants may influence each other, which can affect answers, and there is a really strong possibility that a moderator bias can affect results. While the in-depth interviews allow us to recruit respondents to have a longer speaking time, are more detailed feedback for better data collection, and researchers can generate results using a statistical data analysis. But there is less chance for moderator bias than in focus group settings. Insight gathered from the feedbacks is usually more successful on the quantitative phase, and in-depth interviews are more difficult and complicated to organize. This research method is also generally more expensive. The data is more complex to interpret and usually needs a special software or coding. Writing interview guides can be quite time-consuming, especially for an individual interview. This type of qualitative research is challenging to organize in a B2B settings. So the main differences are that in a focus group, you have a lot of people at once and one moderator, so they don't have a lot of time to talk like in an in-depth interview where it's only one person, and the interviewer where they have more time, they're alone, and their answers can be affected by others people's opinion.